Alrighty, we're setting up for 2017 honey harvest. We'll see what we get this year, considering I told myself at the start of the year I wasn't going to fool with it. I was too busy with the house, wasn't going to do anything with bees. But man, you just can't turn your back on it. We got a little bit different setup this year, at least. Really just the grand poobah here. I borrowed this extractor from a fellow that I met. It's a 3x9, so it'll do 3 deeps tangential with these screens in it, or you can pull these screens out and you can do 9 mediums, or I guess maybe even shallows. Probably do shallows too. So that'd be a first for me, because every other year I've always just had my old standard 3-frame tangential, and deep or mediums, it was all tangential. So it's got a bigger volume if we do get into a bunch of mediums, which hopefully we will. But for right now, we're going to be starting off with deeps. Now this is not all I've got, but this is just what I got yesterday. The top deep, I got that from a buddy. I harvested his honey for him last year. I'm going to do it again this year. We just do it on shares. And then the bottom ones are all mine from the farm. This 35 box has got, I think, 6 deep frames in it. The 2 10-frame mediums they're full, but they're not like slam full. And then another 5-frame of deep there. So we'll start off with these, and then you can see it's still a little gray outside. So once the sun gets up a little bit more, and we get a good rhythm going, we'll go and pull honey off the rest of the bee yard out back here. But we'll let you know how it goes and what the final count is. Okay, so we got all the honey in finally. This is everything out of the backyard. Somehow it's always more than I expect, which is always a nice surprise. And we've actually already harvested a bit of it too, because I've already lost track. These are all empties already, and I've already actually carried a few back out to the backyard. So I've lost count on total what we got, but there's 6 5-frame deeps, there's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 10-frame mediums, there's 2 more 5-frame mediums, a third, a 5-frame deep, and like I said, I've already carried 1 or 2 out to the yard. So we're just gonna have to see how the numbers come in on total weight, because I've lost track how many boxes we're cutting. But we also went ahead and set up our second extractor. So this is my old one, and we got the other one going here too, just so we can speed up a little bit. We're still not super efficient. We're having a hard time getting in the groove for some reason, because we're sharing an uncapping knife. We've only got one uncapping tank, so I've got this kind of ghetto rig set up here over for a second uncapping tank, but not as efficient as we'd like to be. But we got to be going faster somehow, just having 2 setups. So anyway, we're gonna keep cranking it out, and we'll get the final weights and see what all comes of it. Alright, so a little update where we're at. We are actually done harvesting now. We have been for about an hour, done extracting, and we're just cleaning up. I'm sitting on my butt eating fried chicken, watching the other guys work. But we've already got we're breaking everything down. We've got our one extractor, the big extractor, we've already carried it out. We're washing it out, and then we'll get mine done. But we're picking up buckets. Zakey's here is weighing buckets. So we're going through, we just do this just for fun, so I can give you all the final number in the end on what our total weight was. And we're going to actually try to bottle some honey. And that's my wonderful father-in-law, who's scared of getting stung, so he wears a suit all the time, even when we're extracting. But anyway, it actually looks like it's come out to be a pretty good haul. Like I said, Zakey's is getting the final numbers, but just counting buckets, I'm thinking we're going to be at 550 to possibly 600 pounds, which is pretty awesome, since I put minimal effort into it this year. And just, I said at the beginning, my plan was I wasn't even going to fool with honey this year, but I just couldn't turn my back on it. It's a good passive income. It's foolish not to harvest it. And actually, I could have had probably another 30 or 40 pounds, but I had one of my bigger hives actually got slimed out. So what Bill's working on there is we've got that bottom tank on the uncapping tank was almost full as well. And so we're working on draining it out now and just running into whatever buckets we've got. He's got those little 1-gallon buckets. Actually, I think they're 2-gallon buckets. So we're just we've used up all the big 5 gallons, and just going through and weighing it all up. But once we get our final number here, we'll give you all an update. Zakeish, did you want to say something? No? Just smile? Did you go mute?
Yep.
Zakeish is my apprentice, everybody. I think this is the first time I've shown him on video. And
what's that a veil on?
Really good kid. I like having him work for me. And he's a member of the Humble FFA.
Yep.
And unfortunately, he tried to start a beekeeping club and didn't work. That's how we met up. He was going to start a beekeeping club, and I was going to sponsor him and help him out, and then the school shut it down. So that was a shame, but he's a good worker, a good helper. I'm happy to have him here. Okay, the final numbers are in, at least for what we've got right now in buckets. We do still have some down here in the tub that's draining out, and we'll let it drain out basically overnight, and then we'll filter off the rest. Let's say we've got, I don't know, 10 pounds in there. In our buckets, we got gross weights 594.5 pounds. So, for
you guys stay out of anything.
a year when I didn't really put my best foot forward, and to be honest with you, I didn't put my best foot forward. I wasn't even going to harvest honey, and then I did, and my son is apparently lost in la la. Trying to show you guys the buckets. I got almost 600 pounds. I got almost as much or more honey than I did last year when I felt that I really tried. Now we also got the 594.5. That's just my honey. Now that's gross weight, so we didn't deduct off for buckets. So let's say we got 15 pounds worth of buckets. I think there's still 15 pounds worth of honey in there, so we're going to call it 594.5. I also harvested on shares from my other buddy. He had 34.2 pounds. And so with his, he actually asked if he could buy the whole honey instead of harvesting on shares. He wanted to buy it all. So I sold it to him at a wholesale price, and basically I just charged him for the service of harvesting. So if I counted his 34.2 pounds, that was over 600 pounds that we harvested. And we cleaned it all right. Don't worry about the dog licking the bucket. It's all sealed, I promise you. He's just licking honey off the outside. But anyway, yeah, super good year. Almost 600 pounds. I'm super excited about that, given the minimal effort that I put into it. And looking forward to another year worth of stocked up honey. So, true to my tradition, as we extract, we put all the empty frames back in the boxes, of course, and we haul them out here in the yard, let the bees rob them dry. I usually give them 2 to 3 days to kind of clean them up. Which once I store them, I just stack them all up under a covered roof anyway, just like this. So the bees can continue to rob them if they want to. But I try to, I don't know, I always kind of forget every year, but honestly, I try to keep them, you know, so that the moths and stuff won't get into them. And if they get sun and air through them, I've had pretty good luck with it, that the wax moths don't mess with them. But sometimes they still do. So it's always kind of a crapshoot on what I ended up doing. Some years I go through and I've scraped them all the way down, clean all the plastic, scraped it off, and cut out all the, you know, natural comb and store them that way. I don't know. It just kind of depends on what I remember to do or what I decide to do with them. But I was just going through doing a count on what we actually harvested. Now, of course, this is still a little inaccurate because I think at least 2 of the boxes I ended up putting back on hives so they had space. And a few of these boxes, that one and that deep up top, were part of the hive that got slimed out. But just from what I can remember from honey harvest, these 2 little sitting over here, so that's a 5 frame deep and a medium. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there was 9 5 frame mediums. 1, 2, 3, or sorry, 9 5 frame deeps, 3 5 frame mediums, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half 10 frame mediums, and I actually got 1 or 2 10 frame deeps worth of frames. So try to do all the math in your head if you want, but it all worked out to be every bit of 600 pounds. I mentioned in the capping tank that I thought I only had about maybe 10 pounds. So what was in the buckets, what weighed up in the buckets was 595 pounds. And I said, well, let's just say I've got 10 pounds in the capping tank. That pushes it over 600. I drained the capping tank this morning, and it had every bit of another 30 pounds in it at least. I didn't weigh it just based on how much volume I put in the bucket. Every bit of 30 pounds. So yeah, super good year. Super excited about it. And now I just got to get all this cleaned up and put away, and we'll do it again next year.